horror podcast that covers all things paranormal, spooky, and strange. Delving in the fictional and factual, we are your hosts. I'm Brent, and I'm joined by Cal.
And today we are talking about the infamous Mothman. I'm so excited. I love Mothman. Do you like Mothman?
I love Mothman. Big
Mothman is
Mothman
just so
here.
cool.
Big
Oh, we
Mothman
we love
fan.
Mothman. Yeah. Mothman, we love you if you can hear us. If you're listening to the podcast, big fans. Love to see you
Right.
sometime. All right. I'll start us off. So most of the sightings, or where there's a place, a very specific place in which Mothman sightings have occurred, and that is in Point Pleasant in West Virginia. It's a small town, and so most of these accounts were seen in 1966 to 1967. So it's about a year in which
Only
most
a
of these
year
people,
that
yeah. So
that people saw Mothman, like
yeah, so
in
well,
that
for
place.
most of the accounts, yeah. So this is like specific to this place. This is where the history is kind of built upon for Mothman. Although there has been other sightings that we'll get into later on. This is this is the place, the birthplace of Mothman, you could say. So over that year, nearly 100 people came forward with eyewitness reports, and although there's no real consensus to whether the creature is harmful to people, because it's not really that many physical interactions, but a lot of sightings. Um, so firstly, we'll go into a description um, of of him. Uh, so most people that have seen Mothman have basically said that um, he's between 5 and 7 feet tall, and he has wings and can fly, which are estimated to be about 10 foot wingspan. So it's pretty big. That's pretty scary, like coming at you.
Hmm.
So he's like almost a normal sized person with like massive wings.
Mm-hmm.
And the feature that seems to be the most reoccurring between all of these accounts is that he has like large red eyes, kind of like a bird, or I guess like a moth. Well, not really a moth, but kind of insect-like. It He's all the coloring is also can vary because it's always dark when he is seen, but like a few people have said he's kind of brown or grey or black, kind of in that kind of realm of things. So it's usually said that he's kind of a grey color. Um, yeah, so let's get into the accounts, eh? Do you have any
I guess you
questions
could
so far?
say about like the the color.
Yeah,
You know how a fly, if you look at a fly,
yeah,
right? If you have a quick, it has like almost like a reflective shell, like
that's
around
so true.
an
Yeah,
exoskeleton. That you can usually see has like it's like a black, purplish, and sometimes it's got brown. So that's what I
like
imagine
yeah,
with Mothman. It's less of like a straight up color, but more of a reflective and the coloring
iridescent.
change.
Yeah. Yeah, shiny. He's a shiny guy. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, most of these encounters, or most of the times that people have seen him, it has been in Point Pleasant. Um, the first encounter was 5 people together seeing the same creature. They were out working, digging a grave, which is at a place that's near Point Pleasant, maybe an hour and a half away. They were all digging a grave, and basically the creature appeared, and all 5 of them saw it and then ran away. So this is like that's where it started. That's the first encounter.
Do you know
And
what
over the
happened to the grave? Like, did they finish burying the?
I'm not sure if they finished burying the
Well,
person.
the reason
I
why is I'm just popping in with the skepticism brain, right?
yeah.
It's what if this is like Scooby Doo and Mothman is like a grave robber? Like they've
Well,
showed up at the perfect time to rob whatever you know in the casket.
I would. I mean, I'm open to skepticism. However, this is the only account in which a grave is involved, so
Yeah,
it does seem a little bit
it's
unlikely.
poked
How,
holes in my Scooby Doo Mothman
yeah.
theory. Yeah,
However, you saying that, a lot of the account now, I'll get into this a little bit later, but a lot of Mothman's kind of like the tails and everything. It's see he's seen as like a almost like a warning sign or like a bad omen sign, like a black cat, to when something bad is about to happen. And I'll
right.
go into that a little bit more later. Um,
I think
but
I think
yeah,
by the
it's
time they're burying the body, I think that's it's already he's turned up a bit late.
yeah.
Um,
But I don't think this is particularly the thing. Like, it's also he's also been
yeah,
said to be like like to prevent something bad from happening. So maybe because they ran away, whatever bad that was going to happen to them, that could have, that could have been
right.
something that stopped them. We don't know. But there's a lot of bad people have seen um the same description of the creature, although not necessarily calling him Mothman, before a lot of things, big
Hmm.
events, that where things have gone wrong. Very
Okay.
clearly throughout history. So I will get into that a little bit later. We'll just go through the accounts for Point Pleasant for now, and then we'll dive
Okay.
into that later. So because this is so pretty much 3 days later after the first account, um, it was spotted again by two couples, so four people. They were going through a little like nighttime joyride, like teenagers driving through the TNT area, which was basically a storage area for explosives from the war. And
When did this all take place? Sorry, I thought.
1966.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically they built all these bunkers and then they didn't really need them anymore, so it was kind of abandoned. It did get turned into a wildlife sanctuary after that as well. But they were driving through this area and down this road, um, and they spotted the creature nearby the TNT area, so like by the building, and they saw it, and then they sped off at 100 miles per hour, right? So driving, but the creature was able to keep up with the car, like it was following the car, flying over them. Apparently,
Wow.
it didn't like flap its wings; it was just like soaring above them, and they saw that for a while before it disappeared, pretty much. So it's like it basically it's fast enough to be able to go 100 miles per hour to stay up to compete with a I think he was driving like a Chevy, apparently, like driving a fast car. And which was kind of scary, like a very
Yeah.
fast and if the fact that it wasn't just like a glimpse and this thing was like following them is kind of like, oh, okay. Um that's scary. Um, yeah. And this is three
I
days
think
after
I'm
the
kind of
original.
picture. They're driving off. It's dark, and they're just looking up, and they're just seeing the outline of this moth against the night sky with its big red glowing eyes.
Yeah. And this is a big creature. It's probably it would be hard to mistake it for I don't know, like an eagle or like a crow or a raven or something. It would be quite difficult to, because like there's some eagles that are massive, but they're
Well,
not
from what you
not
describe, it's
10
bigger than
feet.
every bird
Yeah,
alive that
yeah.
that
Except
exists
maybe like an
now.
ostrich, but like an ostrich doesn't
You
really
said it was about the
fly
size of a man, but with a wingspan of, you
10
know,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah,
So an ostrich is taller than a person, but it doesn't have a wingspan of 10
10-foot
feet.
wingspan. It
Yeah,
also doesn't look like an ostrich, but that's kind of
yeah,
a similar
yeah.
size.
Hmm.
That's similar size, but there's not really ostriches in the middle of Western Virginia anyway, so I don't know where why there would be ostriches.
No.
Anyway, um, there was also another account, and this one is the kind of the scary one, and also a little bit funny. Um, Her name was Marcilla, and she drove to a friend's house, which happened to be in the middle of this area where all the sightings was, the TNT area. When she got out of the car with her infant baby, she saw the creature coming out of the shadows near the car, and out of fright, she dropped the baby.
Wow.
Yeah, she
Oh
dropped
my
the
gosh.
baby. And then, so she was like, oh shit, and then quickly picked up the baby, ran inside, and locked the doors. Apparently, the Mothman like followed her onto the porch and was like peering through the windows. Um, so that one. I'm kind of like that could be like you don't see the wings. Like, well, she said that she saw Mothman. She saw the same description. But the
Right.
fact I would be scared if that was just a person, honestly. Like, but
Yeah.
again, a rather long account. Um, Also, some of the features for Mothman are so strange that it almost gives it credit to the Mothman being real. Like, apparently, it makes like mousy noises. Like, it makes a like kind of noise, which
Okay.
I don't really find being very menacing. Which is kind
I
of like
think
it's
a small like quietening noise coming from like such a big creature is so unexpected that it can be pretty menacing. It's
yeah,
almost like
I
a
guess
serial
so.
killer whispering to you, like Silence of the Lambs
Yeah,
style, you know?
that's true. That's true. But also, like, when you can kind of consider it's like, if you were to make that up, you wouldn't be like, oh, it sounded like a little mouse. That's not what you would say, right? Like, you would be like, oh, yeah, it was like making this shrieking noise or something like that.
Hmm.
Saying it sounds like a little mouse, that seems like it kind of, it sounds so strange that it sounds kind of like it's not being made up,
Hmm. I
if
mean,
that
it's a
makes sense.
perfect thing to make up because it's not like other people are going to hear it. It's like, oh, well, you didn't hear it because it's so quiet, you
Yeah,
know?
true. Yeah, I guess so. Um, so those are kind of the main
Also,
accounts from
everyone knows what a
coincidence.
mouse sounds like. You can picture that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess so, but it's just kind of like it just that sounds off to me because if someone was like, "Oh, it sounded like a little this massive Mothman," if someone was trying to make it scary, trying to be like, "Oh, I saw this creature," I would not say, you know, it sounded like a
Yeah.
mouse
I can
because
see where you're
that's
going
just
from. But
yeah,
I do think like the quieter noise is scarier. Like
yeah.
I would think that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's true when you really think about it. But I think it's just like if you're taking it
Yeah.
at face value, if you were to make a story up, that wouldn't be
Yeah.
your
Yeah, I
go-to.
get what you're saying. I do
That's what
get.
I'm kind of meaning. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is kind of frightening. To see, oh, it does sound quite scary. Um, we'll go into like the theories of what it is. So there's basically like three main theories to what Mothman is. The first one is that Mothman is an alien. So
Yeah,
that
okay.
he is so people apparently have seen UFO sightings during the time of Mothman's like appearance of those encounters, including there's one like very famous account which happened in the same year of 1966, in which his car was cut off by another kind of contraption. And so this isn't a tale of Mothman. He didn't see Mothman. He apparently saw this what they call the grinning man. His name was Indrid Cold. So apparently this guy, like, he gets out of the car and starts talking to this guy, and this guy isn't moving his face at all. He's having this conversation with him completely telepathically. They had apparently had a conversation for like 10 minutes before they drove off. Um, and told Woodruff that he was like from a different galaxy, that he has to go back to his aircraft, and all of these things. And there were people that could corroborate that story because several people saw him pulled over on the road talking to this guy. So that's just like a weird encounter that happened at the same time. So people are like kind of putting those things together and being like, huh, maybe because there's this paranormal like experience, maybe the Mothman came with him, maybe he is the Mothman, who knows? Like that's they've kind of put those two together
Right.
because they happened in the same place at the same time, which doesn't really,
I
I
think
don't know.
that guy sounds more like I was getting chills when you were talking about the guy,
The
that the
grinning man, and
smiling man. Yeah,
he just has a smile, and he would not like his face
that
was
scares me
unmoving.
more than a Mothman.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
So
people
I
are
hate,
always more scarier
yeah.
than monsters. Yeah,
I agree. I'd much rather see Mothman chase me than a man.
yeah.
Straight up. Um, and so like he obviously he went to authorities. This was published, and yeah, a lot of people apparently a lot of people saw this strange like the contraption he was driving, which apparently didn't really look like a car. It looked more like like a very weird machine and it had like a almost like a steam built thing, like a chimney on it or something. Like it didn't look like a car essentially. So yeah, a lot of people even were able to like confirm, yeah, that didn't look like a car. This guy was actually talking to this guy for like 10 minutes. So like there's evidence to the story of other people actually seeing it, not interacting with him, but yeah. So that's one of the stories that happened around the same time. That isn't actually Mothman, but it kind of that theory leads people to believe that maybe the grinning man brought this extraterrestrial creature with him. Maybe like that's kind of the theory there, which is really
Right.
interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a good theory. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
that's yeah. So Indrid Cold, yeah, really interesting theory of like, oh, that does feel scarier than Mothman,
Yeah.
honestly. um, yeah. So there's the second theory, um, which is trying to be a bit more scientific about it, is that Mothman is a creature that was mutated because of the chemicals that spilt in the TNT area. Um, like there was reports of there being like birds that did get mutated because of the toxic substances that were in that area, in the forest area, and a lot of the supplies and stuff that just got
Okay.
abandoned. So all of these, so it was basically like it had quote unquote weapons of mass destruction. It had bombs and
Okay.
explosives pretty much and stuff like that were left in that area. And it's theorized that, you know, some of these things spilled into that area, and um, it basically mutated a creature to look like Mothman, so that Mothman is a mutated creature. So that's the second theory, because however, like, and because there is accounts of there being like, I mean, when we're talking about mutation, it means more like it's probably meaning more like tumors and things like that being affected to birds, which is usually more what happens in those, like when toxic substances leak. But that is a theory that's kind of based on
Right.
somewhat kind of like science. But again, when it comes to that sort of
Somewhat
thing,
science. I like that. Somewhat
somewhat science,
science. We'll be
it's
delving into a lot of
pseudoscience, I guess.
somewhat science. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a pseudoscience, because
Hmm.
usually when those sorts of things happen, it's, when toxic substances leak, when you think of mutation, it's not like a moth
I think of
grows 7
radiation.
feet. Yeah,
I don't think of
radiation.
toxic
So,
waste. I think of
well,
radiation when I think
it's
of
yeah. I mean,
mutations. And
it
usually it just
probably
ends
is
up them
radiation.
just die. There's no,
Yeah, it usually just die. It's so
yeah,
true. Or you get tumor related
yeah.
issues, abscesses and things, or burns. Um, so I don't know how much science is in that scientific theory, but that is one of the theories that they put out there, that it's a mutant creature.
Okay.
The third theory, which is probably the most, I don't know if you'd say believable, but the strongest theory, is that the Mothman is a curse, as a 200-year-old curse. So the curse can be traced back to the Native Americans people, of First Nations people, and their tribe leader, and there's a story that surrounds that. Basically, there was a man called Chief um, Cornstalk. His name is Kintagar, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, which translates to cornstalk. So I'm going to call him that because I don't want to butcher the name a whole lot. Um, he basically went to this area to try and make peace with British colonists, and that his tribe was there and was basically just trying to like create peace in the
Hmm.
1770, I think it's 1777 was when this took place. Um, the colonists um, kind of feared him and his companions, so they took them prisoner and detained them in the fort. By detaining him, the colonists hoped that they could prevent the Native Americans from attacking. But 2 days later, um, the chief's son was also detained. Um, so the day after that, uh, there was gunfire that was heard near the Kanawha River, near Point Pleasant, where Point Pleasant would be. And when soldiers went forth to investigate, they found that two men had left to hunt for deer had been ambushed by Native Americans, and one was dead. So the Native American peoples killed killed some killed one of these people, and one of them, I think, must have run off or something.
Hmm.
And because the soldiers were enraged, they went into the quarters of Chief Cornstalk and his companions and brutally murdered all of them because of this one person. Um, and this is apparent. This is apparently what Chief Cornstalk said. Um, and he has said that he uttered a curse on the land when he died. I have a description of what he said. He said, "I was the borderman's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never wed with you, but only to protect our Wiggums and lands. I refused to join your pale-faced enemies with the red coats. I came to the fore as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon the land. May it be blighted by nature. May it even be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of its people be paralyzed by the stain of our blood. So that's apparently the curse that he uttered, and after that, there were a few strange events that also happened in this area, particularly like on the Ohio River. There was lightning bolt that apparently was striking this monument that was in honor of the colonists in that area, and that is a theory as to why Mothman is in that area, as this curse.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the strongest theory, is that the land was cursed for 200 years by
Okay.
Chief Cornstalk, which is
Hmm.
actually quite sad, quite a sad story.
It is
I,
another sad story, but
Another
yeah,
harrowing tale, but
yeah.
um, it is the it is the strongest theory, and it is kind of a thing that people have somewhat kind of agreed on, or that they can't really agree. If that if there is a fairy, that is considered to be one of the stronger
Hmm.
ones. That could be why he was seen there. Why he's seen in that particular area.
Hmm.
Um, but also a lot of people have kind of seen him in other areas, in other parts of the world that are not Point Pleasant, and kind of as a bad omen, as I said before, like a black cat before big events that have happened. Um,
Yeah. What events?
so the first event, apparently, that anyone has ever seen of this description, and it was actually nicknamed the Red Dragon because of its eyes, the red glowing eyes, and it's said to have a
Right.
pretty similar description to Mothman. It just wasn't nicknamed Mothman. This is by Shaoti Dam, and this is a dam in China that broke and killed a whole lot of people, um, quite a long time, quite a long time ago. And before this happened, apparently a lot of people saw this figure and described this. Um, or there was an account of this being described. I don't know how many people, because obviously probably a lot of them were killed in this accident.
Hmm.
Um, other other places that he has been spotted before, and this has been spotted by multiple people. Um, so there was an account at Chernobyl with the same description. The I-39 bridge in Minnesota apparently had someone said that they saw someone flying around it before the bridge collapsed. Um, there was a massive swine flu outbreak in Mexico, and I think it was La Junta in Mexico, and apparently people also saw this figure with a similar description. Also in before the earthquake in Fukushima, which where the power plant exploded pretty much because of the earthquake. Apparently, people saw him then as well.
So it's
So
global, which
global,
is pretty interesting. It's not
yeah,
just to the land, which
yeah,
would make the fairy of the curse kind of not true, unless
yeah.
it's
I guess.
moved on. I don't
Well,
know.
I think like the fact that it's a curse to that area, but it's been seen in other places, means that it's not ethereal to one place. And
Mm.
I think that personally, I think that it would be more likely that it's a, it is a bad omen sort of thing. You see it before something bad happens because of all of these similar sightings throughout history. um, so the earliest one being in 1926, and which was the dam, Shanti Dam, and it didn't actually have a name yet. This figure that people had accounting for,
Mm-hmm.
um, and saying about talking about this. The last encounter for the Mothman was in Point Pleasant, just before the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, which was a bridge that collapsed.
Right.
And after that, no one saw him again in Point Pleasant. So the
Okay.
fact that maybe he was a vengeful curse, and maybe it was
Moved
warning
on
people.
to
Yeah, maybe it was warning
other,
people to get out. Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, we don't know, but that is a theory.
So either he is the warning or the cause.
The warning or the cause, we're not
Yeah.
sure, but yeah, he seems to have a lot more meaning throughout history than just being a big moth. If that
Yeah.
makes sense, I guess. Um, but yeah. Uh, and in Point Pleasant, he seems to be quite a welcomed figure now. I guess it would have been very scary at the time, but now people kind of have a bit of fun with Mothman, and they
Mm.
have like a yearly festival for him. And during this time, like um, all of the restaurants and everything are kind of in with it, and kind of celebrate him or
Mm-hmm.
celebrate Mothman. And there's a statue in the square, um, uh, uh, that's apparently life size, or
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be similar description to what he is. And I mean, sounds like I don't really want to see him because of that incentive. That what if I saw him, then maybe something bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
But maybe he's there to try and help me not die. So
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
it would be
here's
great.
the warning, so you would
It
want to
could be
see
the
him.
warning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe seeing him before something bad that happens could be a good thing.
Yeah. Might stop you being in the wrong place or
Yeah,
doing the wrong thing.
exactly. So like it's kind of like diving deeper into it. It's with a lot of these kind of cryptids and stuff, there's usually a sad story within it, but also seeing how after this has happened, like a community has really like he's part of a community now. He's part of Point Pleasant and
Mm.
everything. You can go to Point Pleasant and learn about it, and go to the museum and stuff, and see the encounters and stuff, and they celebrate him in that little town. So it is kind of fun now. But again, kind of scary, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
The
just
fact
because of
that
Mothman.
the the lady who dropped the baby,
Yeah.
she she got followed up to the porch. That was pretty scary.
Yeah, he has, yeah, a lot
He
of these
wasn't giving.
accounts.
I don't know what that was. That wouldn't have been a warning. That would have just been. Unless he was there to warn her not to drop the baby, and then she just ended up dropping the baby. So
Maybe. Or
yeah,
maybe to not go back outside.
maybe. Yeah, maybe there was
Because
something
you
else out
never
there.
know. Maybe there was something else out there.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that. I'd like to believe that he's there to be a protector rather than a chaos bringer.
Yeah.
but we can't know that.
No.
That's just gonna remain a mystery, I'm afraid.
Mm.
But at least he's a fun looking. He's a fun guy.
Yeah.
A fun looking guy.
Yeah.
And you know what? Big fan.
Big fan of
And
Mothman.
big fan. I'd love to see Mothman someday.
Mm.
Even if chaos. If something was bad to happen to me after that, then at least I've seen Mothman. You know, bad stuff's
Right.
always gonna happen, but you're not always gonna see a giant moth-like creature.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think that's all from me for Mothman. If anyone has any other encounters or has more information or even wants to dispute against these theories, again, this is not necessarily my opinion. This is information that I've found. Um, but you know, if anyone wants to shed some more light on the tale of Mothman, please enlighten us.
You can comment on our YouTube channel or send us an email at 2kiwisandcheese@gmail.com.
I guess that's us for today. I'm Kat,
I'm Brent. Thank you so much for
and
listening.
thanks for listening to Harrowing Tales.
Bye.
Goodbye.
So, Cal,
Yeah,
if you notice, I went a bit quiet there. It's because I muted my mic because I could hear someone humming. I'm
I
not.
heard something.
I heard someone
I heard
going
something.
like that, doing that.
I thought that was you.
That was not me. That's really interesting. We are not close enough to any neighbors that to be able to hear that. So, interesting.